So as most of you probably know, I usually don't make massive AFL rant videos, or at least that's what I think. Some of you guys might argue in the comments down below that every single one of my videos is a massive rant video, which I guess could be true, but one thing has just been grinding my gears, which I have to say, I'm very annoyed. I was pretty much upset. Like the first time, I think I've been really, truly, passionately annoyed by something that's happened in the AFL for a minute now, and it's something I never get annoyed about. But that does happen to be the All-Australian. Again, I think every year the All-Australian team comes out and you've got a bunch of numpties commenting, saying that, oh, this guy was robbed, and some of the names you see are usually pretty like memeable, or some random nerd is just commenting them to be an absolute dickhead in the comment section. But again, as the last couple years have gone past, the All-Australian has been pretty divisive. A couple names here and there that some people have been a little bit like, what is going on? And again, the 2025 All-Australian rolled around, and one of the first players that was named was very, very divisive. Again, there was that, which we'll talk about in a second, but then there was also some other really, really stupid things that I just have to talk about in this video, because I think the AFL for starters needs to harden up, and I think we'll change the selectors next year, because what we saw this year was, I think, embarrassing. It was flat out embarrassing. It was a bad look for the game. And what I'm talking about that is, you've got two situations here. One I'm going to start off with is Nick Daicos, who is arguably the best player in the whole entire game, right? Literally on the same awards night, won the Lee Matthews MVP, which some people say is the greatest award you can win. There's the Brownlow and then there's the Lee Matthews MVP. And the Lee Matthews MVP is usually a very, very reliable and trusty indicator of that is the best player in the game this year. That player had the best season. He is the most valuable player. Nick Daicos literally won that. He was the most valuable player. Yet, when the All-Australian came around, you had the MVP, the most valuable player, coming off the bench. They had the MVP coming off the bench. I mean, when you say that out loud, that is so embarrassing, so stupid, and I do not understand how there's not a please explain from every single selector, because there was like 10 selectors of the All-Australian team. How is there not a please explain why is Nick Daicos on the bench? And then you could maybe sit here and justify it and say, look, maybe, they wouldn't have known who was going to win the MVP. But at the end of the day, even though they wouldn't have known who was going to win the MVP, Nick Daicos has been a top 2 favourite for like the whole entire year, and he's coming off the bench in the All-Australian team. I mean, I've never played AFL, right? I've just watched AFL enough to know that, and to have, I think, an educated enough opinion to maybe know that the MVP of the competition should be starting on the field. How do you have 10 reliable experts who are picking this All-Australian team, and these 10 reliable experts have the MVP coming off the bench? Is that not the most dumb and embarrassing thing you have ever heard? Again, I think there's some names that need to be, called out. One in particular, I'm just going to say, because I think he's the face of the voting at this point. I think he's been voting on it for like over 5 years now, something crazy. But Kane Cornes is smart enough. He should be smart enough, and has been in the AFL system enough to know that the MVP, or the guy who's been top 2 in contention for the whole year, should not be coming off the bench. What the hell are we doing here? Then you've got the other one, Jeremy Cameron got given captaincy of the All-Australian team. You know what's even more embarrassing than Jeremy Cameron being given captaincy of the All-Australian team? Jeremy Cameron then coming out afterwards and saying, "I've never captained anything in my whole entire life. I have no idea how I'm the captain." Jeremy Cameron literally came out and basically talked shit to all these selectors' face, saying that you've given me the captaincy and I've never captained anything in my life. How the hell does that make sense? What are we doing here? Why is there a guy who has never been a captain in his whole entire life being the captain of a best team selected? That means there were about 4 captains in this team, right? Just off the top of my head. Marcus Bontempelli, Jordan Dawson, Noah Anderson, probably maybe even another one. I can't even remember, right? All of these captains who are actual captains of AFL teams, and you chose a guy to captain the best 22 in the AFL who has never been the captain. That's like saying Richmond are going into the 2020 Premiership with Trent Cotchin on their team, but no, let's go and pick Noah Bolter to be our captain, who's never captained anything. What the hell is happening? 10 AFL selectors who are supposed to know every single thing about the game and have watched every bit of piece of information, every knowledge they should have. The 10 selectors picked a guy who has never captained anything to captain the All-Australian over multiple actual AFL captains who were in the team. I mean, it's embarrassing, it is ridiculous, and it needs to be called out. Like, I think a lot of people are calling it out. I just thought I would throw my hat into the ring and call this out because it's embarrassing. It's a bad look for the AFL with how badly the selectors did this year. And then you got the one who, I mean, most of you guys have heard, it has caused an insane amount of controversy. And it is quite ridiculous. And I feel bad for the guy because he just made All-Australian. He's been torn apart online, but it's just the reality of things. Yeah, no, Josh Battle didn't deserve to be an All-Australian. I mean, yeah, Josh Battle had a second half of the year, and the AFL, the selectors love to pick a random controversial player every year that's just going to stir shit, and it looks like it was Josh Battle. And look, there is a graph that's going out from like round 10 to round 23. Josh Battle was one of the best defenders in the competition. I mean, he kept a lot of players goalless. It's the reality of things. But at the end of the day, Josh Battle on a lot of those guys took like the second best key forward. I mean, there are only a handful of times where he took the number 1 key forward, where he took like a Charlie Curnow. But Tom Barrass was mainly the guy who took their best key forward. And some of those players that he kept goalless were like Buku Karmas and Jonty Fall. I mean, no disrespect to them, and I don't want to take away from Josh Battle's second half of the year. But we got to remember, there was a time in the first half of the year where it was like round 9, and you had people on SCN talking about if Josh Battle and Tom Barrass were bad trades, bad players to bring in, like they haven't worked out. Just because in the first 9 to 10 games, Josh Battle was not playing that good, and it really did take him some time to find his feet. And I remember there were even games where he got pushed down forward. So at the end of the day, you have a guy who's just made All-Australian who played a pretty crappy first third of the year and was literally pushed down forward multiple times because they needed him there more than they needed him down back, and he's an All-Australian backman. What's even more salt on the wound is he made the All-Australian over Josh Worrell, which, I mean, I don't really care about that one. Like, I see a lot of people arguing, saying Worrell deserved it over him. I'm not too angry about Battle making it over Worrell. I don't really care. But Nick Floston not making it over Josh Battle is embarrassing. It's a bad look, and it makes no sense. I mean, there is not a single time in Josh Battle's whole entire career that he's been a better player than Nick Floston. Whether it's his first year, his 5th year, or even this year. And this year's the most important one. Josh Battle was not a better player than Nick Floston. Without Nick Floston, Richmond don't win a game. With Nick Floston, Richmond win 5 games, and that's 5 more games than what a lot of people were tipping and predicting Richmond to win. So with Nick Floston, Richmond were able to win 5 games. They were able to not be pumped by 100 million points every week. I think he was arguably the most important defender to any team in the competition. Like, genuinely, if Richmond didn't have Nick Floston, they were going to be getting thumped by 100 million points every game. You look against North Melbourne in the second last game of the year, when Nick Floston broke his leg, North ended up kicking like 8 straight or something crazy. Nick Floston was, I think, the most important defender for a team this whole entire year. He had crazy numbers, crazy defensive stats. He was great by foot, great with the ball in his hand. He was able to create, defend, lock down. Oh my God, the leadership as well. It is, I mean, it's embarrassing that Josh Battle made it over him. And it's a bad look because I think it was the obvious, like 99% of the AFL fandom had Nick Floston or Josh Worrell in that team. Again, I still believe Nick Floston was much better than Josh Worrell. Whether you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, 99% of the fan base had either one of those guys in the team. And there was about 1% of them who had Josh Battle, and they would have been Hawthorn fans. And are somehow the 10 selectors. I don't know how 10 selectors can be so off the mark and so detached from what everyone else is saying. Like the hundreds of thousands of AFL fans who have commented or voiced their opinion, and 99% of them said Nick Floston or Josh Worrell. And somehow the 10 selectors, when debating who it should be, Nick Floston or Josh Worrell, came out with Josh Battle. I don't get it. I don't understand how and why the AFL, the selectors, feel the need to just have like the one random controversial player in the team every year. Like the whole team was so perfect, and then you got Josh Battle in there, and it's like Josh Battle isn't even coming off the bench, he's starting. Nick Daicos is coming off the bench. The AFL MVP is coming off the bench, but Josh Battle is starting on the ground. You can't make this shit up. It seriously is. It is concerning how out of touch the All-Australian selectors were this year. I think it needs a massive overhaul. I think it needs a please explain by the 10 selectors on how they decided to pick Josh Battle over Floston and Worrell, and how they decided to pick Cameron as captain, and how Daicos comes off the bench. I think you could make a whole entire Netflix documentary on these 10 selectors just talking absolute yap about how they came to the conclusion that disagreed with like 99% of the AFL fan base. And usually the fan base is pretty against each other. I think this year the whole fan base was pretty collective on what the All-Australian team should have been. And the selectors just decided to throw in Josh Battle. I don't know. This video is already long enough. I'm developing a headache from just how stupid the team was this year with those 3 absolutely dysfunctional opinions which just don't make any sense. Again, I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about the All-Australian team this year? Do you agree with it or do you not? Again, I'd very much like to know. My gaming/movie channel will be linked down below. Subscribe to this channel for all latest sports content and news. My Instagram, if you haven't gone follow that already as well, will be getting linked down below. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.